Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Teresa. I do videos on whatever I want because I don't like putting myself in a box. And I literally just looked at the thumbnail and I don't know why my eye looks like that. Um, don't know. I think my allergies are kicking in. I feel like in the evenings, just chilling on the couch, my congestion really kicks in. Um, so I don't know if my eyes are having issues now. I don't know. So I hope not. I usually don't have that issue. But I'm gonna first apologize. There is apparently somebody working on the exterior of the apartment building who has been banging about. I think he's done in the front. He went to the back. I'm so sorry. I wanted to do this today because I got errands to run tomorrow. So I'm sorry. But I'm gonna jump right into this. So let's just get into it. So the first question is, do you feel a strong need to socialize? Um, I know it's probably a spectrum and everyone is different, but would you say having a social life is very important to you and human interactions generally give you energy? So this is really interesting. I grabbed this one and I think I cut it down, so it's just the first two from I think a Reddit forum. And this came from a person who actually has autism. And I thought this was really interesting. And so I actually do have a strong need to socialize. I kind of was questioning it this week and realized that I would ideally love a job that is work from home, but I also feel like when I was unemployed, I honestly did not leave my house. Like I was fine going to the grocery store, going to my appointments, um, that kind of thing. But I heard Chris Collins, aka Call Me Chris, start using the term people bathing. And I was like, oh my God, I feel like I have a need to do that occasionally. And so I kind of was like, do I have depression or something? Like an extremely mild form of depression. But after thinking about it, I was like, here's the thing. And looking into it, I was like, okay, the main thing is being a homebody is you still get joy from being home and you're not losing interest in the things that you're interested in. And so that was definitely me. I didn't lose interest in anything um, that I have interest in. And with depression, you lose those interests. And so I was like, okay, I think I'm good. But I definitely kind of felt like at the end of my unemployment period, it was harder to kind of get out and socialize. So there was that. But because I don't like to go places where it's super, super busy, but um, but kind of just busy enough. And I mean, with grocery shopping, my issue would be I would get dressed for grocery shopping that would literally last me 30 minutes tops. And it's like, why? Why am I getting dressed for something that's taking me 30 minutes tops? Like, that's a waste, in my opinion, but it is what it is. So, the next part of that is, I guess, would you say having a social life is very important to you and human interactions generally give you energy? Absolutely. This is really almost, I mean, social life is very important. the other half of that is kind of hard for me because giving me energy is a hard one. I am an empath, and so as an empath, I feed into other people's energy, but at the same time, it's very easy to get drained from social interaction. And so it's a balance thing. So there's that. The next thing is when someone makes a statement without providing any reasoning, does it bother you? So I'm going to kind of switch this and make it so it says, does it bother you when someone wants to force you to provide medical evidence of your disability? And I would say yes, because for work reasons, a lot of times, in order to have a accommodation, you need to have medical evidence of the disability. And I personally do not have a problem handing over any medical evidence of really like anything necessarily. Sorry guys, my corners here are like really dry. I'm like balancing you guys on like one leg, so be a little wonky here. But when it comes to disabilities, the problem is mine specifically, and I know this is about being neurodivergent, but this is also falling into having a disability. Mine is dyscalculia, which is a math disability, which is like a sister disability to dyslexia, and it is a um, neurological disability. Um, Lana, hey Lana, and so that is also a specific learning disability. And because it's falling under a learning disability, it is generally, for the most part, not monitored by a doctor. And so there is no medical, told you guys, medical evidence of that. And so the problem is like what I'm going through right now is trying to get like in the United States, we have like disability insurance, I guess, through like Social Security. So I'm trying to get that. And I was on an IEP, individual education plan, throughout all of my schooling from like first grade all the way through senior year of high school. And while that, yes, was diagnosed, it was only diagnosed through the school system. So now I don't really have anything to be like, hey, this is an actual like diagnosis. And so they are hopefully still going to, after I just provided them my income, and I'm not hopefully over income, hopefully they still will, and they should have, going to actually get evaluated for the learning disability by a professional, so a psychiatrist, and they will actually like formally diagnose me, if that makes sense. And so I'm really actually excited about that because I'm like, I don't know how to prove this like, you know, any other way, because I'm like, again, this was all through like the school system. I've been out of school since like, I don't know, when did I get my bachelor's? Like 2022, I think. So at least 2 years. So, and I was receiving services with Voc Rehab, which is a service that helps people with disabilities gain, well, find employment and like keep employment. And so the weird thing is, though, I've switched counselors so many times that I don't even think they have the documentation of like my IEP from high school because that's when I would have like originally signed up for services. So, yeah, that's where I get annoyed because I'm just like, not every disability has medical evidence with it. Um, and I think learning disabilities are just hard because I think unless, you actually talk to the doctor about something like a behavioral issue, then it kind of gets diagnosed with the doctor. How I see it is like maybe your kid gets, tested for an disability at school. They get the diagnosis and accommodations, whatever, at school. Then, the teacher starts seeing the behavioral issues. You bring that up with the doctor. The doctor then sends them to a psychiatrist to get tested. The psychiatrist comes up with the diagnosis. You also tell, that medical team then, hey, the kid also went through testing at school. This is, what happened with that. They're on an IEP or a 504. Um, this is just what's kind of going on in school. And then, therefore, they would put that in clinic notes. And then it's diagnosed with a medical professional. So, yeah, that's just how I see it. I'm going to move on before this video gets way too long. Um, what is something you realize about being neurodivergent now that you did not realize when you were younger? So my job now, I work with people with disabilities, and so I've been in training majority of the week, and so I actually realized that there is a lot of trauma associated with being neurodivergent, mainly with having a disability. And I didn't realize that actually until I interviewed for the job. And as much as it's great to get the help to get you through what you need to get through, like for me, it was schooling. So, as great as it was to get that schooling help, it also created a lot of trauma. And I didn't realize that until I actually talked to the people that I interviewed with. And I was like, oh my God, like there's a lot of trauma with that. And then I started training and it started talking more about that. And I really had to take a break um, with that training because I was like, oh, this is just hitting a little too close to home. And so I also watched a video on the YouTube channel Psych to Go that talked about loneliness and being neurodivergent. And I never thought about that, but that also kind of brought my thought process to like being on your own. And the hard thing about being neurodivergent or having a disability is like, in a way, you're like kind of on your own thinking about it like within your family. So, like, nobody in my family, um, had like immediate family, I'll say, has a disability of any kind. None of them have a learning disability as well, and none of them don't have like a mental disability or anything like that. And so, as I'm trying to navigate, finding resources for myself and trying to get government help, that's been really challenging because they just like don't understand it. And so that's really challenging. Um, so yeah, there's that as well. And so that's kind of what I mean when I say like loneliness and kind of being on your own is like you really are forced to like navigate it on your own. And something that I had to tell like an employer or just like higher ups in a job before was like we as people with disabilities are not made aware of our rights, our resources at all. Like, we are really having to figure it out on our own and just through like trial and error. And it's really difficult. Um, and it gets frustrating when people don't understand like why we're asking for an accommodation or whatever. And so like that's really hard as well. But yeah, so there's that. The next thing is, have you ever felt overprotected, and do you see results of that coming out in your life? Absolutely. This is another thing that my training had talked about was people who are disabled are more likely to be overprotected because of their disability. And I really got this along when it came to driving, but also things that are heavily involved in math. And so, one thing I actually told my best friend, who's a nurse and also my twin flame, is that my mom once was talking, and we were talking about people with disabilities, and she was talking about somebody, you know, just in theory, who would have like a hand tremor and, maybe wanting to be a surgeon. And she like just could not get over the fact that it would be impossible for them to be a surgeon and but also have this like hand tremor, which if you don't know what it is, it's shaking your hand like this. And I was like, okay, I see your point. But who's to say that there might not be something in the future that comes along that helps stabilize their hand so that they can be a surgeon? Um, or who's to say, like, maybe that person's on medication to help control the hand tremors? Like, why do you have to say, like, literally show me? Oh my god, I hate this so much. She literally showed me what she meant. She was acting like a person with a hand tremor to prove her point and was like, Teresa, I'm somebody with a hand tremor and I want to be a surgeon, but I want to be a surgeon like really badly, but I have this hand tremor. Like, nobody's going to trust somebody like that to do surgery and stuff. And again, me being neurodivergent myself and having a disability, I'm like, again, who the are you to say that when technology is advancing every single day, when medicine is advancing every single day? And again, you don't know if that person's on medication to better themselves. And yeah, and like I said, with driving especially, one of the things I'm really, really nervous about, which I might need to talk to my employers about, is driving people um, around town, because I'm still really new here. I don't know my way around town, and I've shadowed two people so far this week. This was my first full week, so I shadowed somebody on Monday and then yesterday, and there's a lot of freeways, and I don't do well on freeways. Like, I'm cool if somebody like gets dropped off at the office and then we're kind of just driving um in our little like area because we have a lot of stuff to do in our area, where our office is, but I'm not really comfortable like driving people places per se. And so I'm like really terrified of that. And that really comes down to the fact that like my mom really did not allow me to drive a lot on busy roads and stuff growing up. I really wasn't exposed to driving on highways growing up. And granted, I did come from a smaller town. So the town I'm currently in is like four of my hometowns like put together. And so that's really terrifying. Even just getting to work for me is very anxiety inducing. Even going home is very anxiety inducing. One road, really in particular, is after that, it's not so bad. But yeah, that kind of scares me. And that's the overprotectiveness of like my mom coming through. And so I definitely see that like in my life um, coming about. And so, yeah, I'm really nervous about that. But I see the benefits of it, of being like, hey, like, you gotta break through this. And so hopefully most of my um, clients end up being able to drive themselves. Hopefully if I talk to somebody about it, we can kind of find clients who drive themselves and don't need a lot of assistance driving, because that's terrifying for me. Terrifying for me just to be by myself driving, but then to have somebody else driving is also terrifying, especially if I'm driving like to one of the suburb places and into town and stuff. Like, yeah. The only good thing about that is like just time wise. But anywho, um, but yeah, that overprotectiveness is really, really getting there. And then, like I said, just stuff with like math um comes through, kind of like, I took a bookkeeping job once upon a time just to kind of prove to my mom, like, you know what, like it might be really math heavy, but I can do it. And then 7 months later, things kind of happened. And not necessarily because, well, I don't think a lot of it had to do with how I was bookkeeping, but yeah. Um, so then kind of like just proved to my mom that like she was right, and just to kind of like stay away from things that are heavily involving math. And then yeah, I was doing like front desk work too, and luckily I really tried hard to get my coworker to do all this stuff with like people's bills because I did not want to be the one messing that up. And yeah, I don't think that. So what they told me that had like nothing to do with it, but I don't know. Anywho, okay, few more here. What kinds of accommodations did you have growing up? So I had a few different accommodations. I would have like word banks if there was no word banks available, because if I didn't on tests, Lord help me, it was like making up some random word that had nothing to do with the subject that we were studying. What I had in high school was, if it was like matching, my teacher, I remember my senior year of high school English class, she would put like a star next to the ones that like go together. And then I knew, okay, those are the ones that go together, the ones that don't have anything next to them go together. So it was just easier for my brain to like break it down that way. Um, and then let's see, I had extra time all throughout high school and, well, yeah, like middle school and high school and college. The thing is, when you get out of high school and you continue to have services, it switches to a 504, so you don't have as much of the same accommodations. So like that word bank I was just talking about and the like matching thing. I wouldn't have that, but I would have extended time. I always had use of a calculator on anything that was math related. Um, Trying to think what else. Oh, going to a quiet place to take the test. Um, so I could kind of like take the test early if I wanted to. Usually I didn't necessarily. Unless it was like a weird like scheduling thing with like the teacher or something. I don't know. Um Trying to think what else. Those are the ones I can remember. I don't think there's any other like accommodation. Oh, um I don't know how many of you are familiar with this if you're in the States, but if you ever did AR points, in school, in like middle school, high school, I started doing those in middle school. And since that was really test heavy, I could never get my points because I just could not pass the tests because they were kind of dumb. Like the tests were really dumb. Like my mom ended up kind of looking into the tests and seeing like what is it really asking you? And so my English teacher, shout out to Mr. Finders, 7th grade year, um, came up with the idea of why don't we just have her do book reports, and that will be her way of getting AR points since she's not passing the AR tests, and she's not able to get those points that are required. She can just write a book report, and I'll just give her the points. And so that's what I did throughout middle school and high school, and that was so much better because, yeah, the tests were dumb. It was like, on page 20 of Harry Potter, what color was Hermione's dress in the Yule Ball? And, I mean, now I could answer it because I actually read the book. So so terrible. Sorry. But because it's different in the movie than it is in the book, but you read any other book and it'd be something like that. Or like, what color was a traffic cone in the middle of the street on this page? Orange? No, it was yellow. Like, so yeah, it was really dumb. So I remember that. Next one, there's three more. I'm gonna get through them really quickly. Who was the main decision maker when it came to your IEP or 504? If you had one in school, it was my mom. And honestly, like, my dad was never in, like, those meetings. So, it really surprised me actually that when, um, I worked at a Head Start and I had both parents in those meetings because I was like, "Heck yeah, like, both of you should be involved in this. It should not be one or the other." So I liked that. Sorry. Um, Next one. Did that person ever do anything special for you that wasn't necessarily an accommodation for you, but helped you succeed in school? So yeah, all of a sudden I was like, hang on, my mom got the actual like words for the spelling bees, like spelling tests that we had. Not the spelling bees, but the spelling tests that we had. And I swear on my life that she got some of the tests in elementary school before I took them. So she knew exactly what we were studying. And I don't know what subjects they were. I know it wasn't history, but I don't know if it was science or I feel like maybe it was reading. So we literally got a hold of the tests before I actually took the tests with everybody else so that we knew exactly what we were studying. because I always hated it. This is not like super young me saying this, but this is like high school and and college me saying this. But I always hated it when when my teachers were like, study and then you'll have a test on this. I never knew what the heck I was studying. I was never a good note taker. And that was an accommodation I had in college, which was a kind of a terrible accommodation, I will say, because then they could never find somebody to take notes for me because it was like word vomit. I never knew what to take notes on. Um, because I was like, I don't actually know if this is important and if this is actually going to be on the test. But like, I just never straight up knew what to study. So, yeah, going back to what I was originally saying, my mom somehow got like the original tests of some subject in elementary school. like swear on my life on this one. Um, And yeah, I don't know if it was like reading or what it was, but I know for sure it was the actual spelling words. But she probably didn't do the other one for that long, I feel like. And I don't know when she even got a hold of this or anything because I don't have any memory of like my teacher just handing over the test to me and being like, "Here, give this to your mom," and, like, me putting it in my backpack and being like, "Here, mom," um, or anything like that. So, I don't know. Alright, last question. Do you think you have any superpowers from being neurodivergent, and if so, what are they? I definitely think being empathetic is something that comes with being neurodivergent. I For me, I more so put that, though, with being a theater kid just because of what I have to do on stage. But I definitely think it also comes from being neurodivergent and just having to obviously think differently than other people. And I love being around other people who are neurodivergent as well. And it's just like we get each other in like a different way. Um, and so I think that's definitely a superpower. I think I'm definitely I'm very music oriented. Anybody who's met me in real life can tell you that. And a lot of that is because neurotypical people tend to be stronger in subjects like the arts and music and things of that nature. And so for me, that is definitely true. And I will fully say I was forced into band and I hated it. However, when I started actually learning music and how to read it, because I had an elementary school teacher who really did not teach us how to read music or anything. Um, but when I really put in the effort in middle school to read music and understand it, I did notice a huge shift in my math abilities. And so I I almost hate to advocate for it, but if your kid's really struggling in math, get them involved in music. Um, you'll see an improvement. So, yeah. So definitely stronger in music because of it. I definitely feel like because I'm neurodivergent, I definitely have a holistic approach to things. Hmm, I don't know. I don't really know if this has anything to do with being neurodivergent because I don't feel like I'm necessarily like detail oriented. Maybe I am. I can be when I want to be, but for the most part, I like to look at things holistically. And so, yeah, I like that. I definitely have good writing skills when it comes to academics. Um, I've had a lot of teachers, including somebody at Cornell University when I was doing a certificate program say, like, this is one of the best research papers I've ever read in a long time. So I definitely have really good, like, creative writing skills and just overall really good writing skills, mostly in academic settings. Um, Definitely do not go look at my Instagram posts or like Facebook posts. Uh, so that's definitely a superpower to be neurodivergent, I would say. And yeah, this has gone on for so long, you guys. Um, I just wanted to do that. I thought it would be fun. And I'm glad, honestly, the banging has like stopped. Maybe he's on the other side right now. I feel like I can hear like faint bangings right now. So I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe down below, hit the bell for notifications. I will keep you all updated on the testing. I'm really hoping that even though I might be over income or whatever with the disability, that they will still like test me or whatever. Um, if not, I think I still will get tested anyways because I still want like actual clinical um like testing done. So there's actual like proof of it. And so yeah, I will keep you all updated. I'm so excited to figure it out because I feel like there's more to it than just being dyscalculic. I am nervous though because for that testing, like they're gonna want input from my mom, and and even in the IEP, she didn't really like say much about anything else about like me growing up. So yeah. Anyways, hope you guys all have a wonderful week and I'll see you all later. Bye.